Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
We think pretty is pretty important in all things in beauty. I'm Patty Schmucker, your host. Here at RadioAMB, we love to talk about all things beauty, which means that some weeks we go behind the scenes to tell the secrets behind the making of health and beauty products, and some weeks we bring you compelling stories about beauty, society, health, fashion, wellness, and other things we love. We hope you'll tune in often and give us your feedback. Our program sponsor today is the first beauty company to donate $1 for every purchase to pay down the national debt. That's right, Makeup America is the first American-branded company that believes that paying down the national debt can help to empower women, no matter who they are or where they come from. When they're confident and radiant, their beauty, diversity, creativity, and independence shines. Makeup America products are cruelty-free, non-GMO, paraben-free, fragrance-free, and suitable for all skin tones and types. Find them at AmericanMadeBeauty.com. As we continue our celebration of America's independence in the month of July, I'm delighted to bring you a guest who reflects the virtues we believe are part of the American spirit. In our feature segment today, we'll talk and meet a woman who I describe of courage, determination, creativity, and independence, as well as a universal determination to survive. You'll meet in our feature segment Julissa Arce. In our second segment today, we'll talk a little bit about the way in which society has evolved and how the perception of people affects the way we feel about ourselves and how we can apply what I call my messy prescription for wellness to be healthy and radiant. And in our final segment, we'll talk about the upcoming show where the beauty community of North America comes together every year in July. We'll talk about if you are a brand and want to have success in being in the industry, some of the tips that you can apply in order to bring your product to market. So let me tell you, first of all, a little bit about our guest for the feature segment.
As we celebrate America's independence this month of July, I'm delighted to bring you a guest who reflects the virtues we believe are part of the American spirit. Courage, determination, creativity, and independence are just a few words I would use to describe Julissa Arce. Let me tell you a little bit more about her. Julissa is a best-selling author of My Underground American Dream. She was named one of People in Espanol's 25 most powerful women in 2017. She's a leading voice in the fight for social justice, immigrant rights, and educational equality. Julissa is a contributor for Crooked Media, CNBC, and one of the hosts of Crooked Conversations. Her commitment to education for all young people led her to create the Ascent Education Fund, where she serves as chairwoman of the board. AEF is a college scholarship and mentor program for immigrant students in New York City, regardless of their ethnicity, national origin, or immigration status. Prior to becoming an advocate, she built a successful career on Wall Street, working for Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch, and had seemingly achieved the American dream, yet she was not truly part of America. You see, Julissa's immigration to America from Mexico at the age of 11 and was undocumented for almost 15 years. years, some of those years spent rising to prominence on Wall Street. She made national and international headlines when she revealed that she achieved the American dream of wealth and status at Goldman Sachs while undocumented. I'm delighted to have her tell you more about her story. Welcome, Julissa, and we're delighted to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start out, if you would, and having had that background, can you tell us how it occurred that you came here to the United States?
Sure. Well, I was 11 years old when I came to the U.S. from Mexico to be reunited with my parents. My parents were already living in the U.S. and had lived here since I was 3 years old. And from the time I was 3 to the time I was 11, they would travel back and forth between the U.S. and Mexico. And when I was 11, they decided that I should come live with them because, again, I was 11 and growing up in Mexico without my parents was not ideal. Mm-hmm. And that's how I came here. A lot of people think that all undocumented people came to the U.S. by crossing the Mexico-U.S. border, and the fact is that 40% of us who are or at some point were undocumented crossed the Mexico-U.S. border or any other border on a plane with a visa, and that was my situation. I came here on a tourist visa that later expired when I was 14, and that's how that's why I became undocumented, because the visa that I used to come here expired.
So, many young people face all sorts of different emotional challenges as they're growing up. What was it like for you at being a young in your teen years, being here in the United States and being undocumented? Was there emotions attached to all of that?
Yeah, of course. I think it's very interesting to have this conversation now, especially with everything that's going on. But when I was 11, I was just really worried about making friends. Like I wasn't worried about am I undocumented, what's my immigration status, because I was a kid, so it wasn't something that was front of mind. And the day that I found out I was undocumented when I was 14, my mom was sharing with me that I wasn't going to be able to have a quinceañera, which is this really big party when Mexican girls turn 15. And I wanted to have a quinceañera party in Mexico with my family. And that's when she told me that I couldn't go to Mexico anymore because I wouldn't be able to come back. Mm-hmm. And frankly, that day when I found out I was undocumented, I cried, not about being undocumented, but I cried because I couldn't have this party that I had wanted my whole life. And it wasn't until much later that being undocumented became part of my consciousness, that it became sort of front and center in my life, because being undocumented means that you cannot do a lot of things. For me, it meant that I couldn't get a driver's license when I turned 16, like the rest of my friends and my classmates were doing. I couldn't even really apply for college back then because undocumented people couldn't apply for college, and undocumented people still, to this day, 17 years later, cannot have financial aid to go to college. And so that's really when it started becoming more real that being undocumented carried with it certain consequences. And unfortunately, when I found out I was undocumented, I had just began to really feel American, because I had finally learned how to speak English, and I was making friends, and I was sort of adapting to American culture. And it was then that it felt a little bit like the rug was pulled from under me, because I was finally beginning to feel American, but I was like the opposite of what most people considered to be American.
Right.
So yeah, it was challenging, but again, like it was something that much later in my life that I realized being undocumented is a really big deal.
And so from your story and what I've read, you really were able to still accomplish all of those things. How did you deal with a driver's license and going to college despite the fact that you didn't have the documentation?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being an immigrant is the resilience and the resourcefulness that we have to learn. And even though we're told time and time again, no, repeatedly, we somehow figure it out, and we figure out how to make things work. And sometimes we happen to be at the right place at the right time, which for going to college, Texas was the first state that allowed undocumented students to go to college, pay in-state tuition, and receive state financial aid. And that law passed in 2001, which is when I graduated from high school. And so I was very fortunate that law passed at that moment. Although the only reason I was able to go to the University of Texas at Austin is not because of this law. It's because I have the grades, and I have the extracurricular activities, and I have the SAT scores, and I had graduated in the top 5% of my high school class. And so all of that sort of preparation, I was able to take advantage of it because of the law. So that's how I was able to go to college. In terms of driving, I drove without a driver's license for many years because I still needed to get to work. I still needed to get to school. And so I would just have to drive without a license and just pray every time I got into the backseat of my car, into the driver's seat in my car, that I wouldn't be pulled over, because the consequence of getting pulled over for someone like me is not you get a ticket. It's like you might get deported.
Right, exactly. And so tell us how, when you moved on then from college and your successful career on Wall Street, what were the circumstances that made you come out and talk about the fact that you were undocumented?
Well, I was undocumented for a really long time, and I eventually became an American citizen because my husband's an American citizen, and so I was able to adjust my status that way.
Okay.
But one, that's not that. I always am careful to sort of share that, because I think sometimes people get the impression that as soon as you marry someone who's an American citizen, that you automatically become a citizen yourself, and it's still a very long process. It's a very expensive process, and I had mentioned at the beginning of the show that I came here with a visa, so I came in legally, and that made a really big difference in terms of being eligible to adjust my immigration status. But that's how I was able to become a citizen. And then I realized, I have a really powerful story to tell, because it's not every day that you hear of an undocumented person who became a vice president at Goldman Sachs, and I just felt like I couldn't hide behind my accomplishments anymore. And what I mean by that is I had a very successful career. I was making a ton of money working on Wall Street. I always tell this joke that I had a husband that could dance. I mean, I had like everything. But at the same time, though, I was like seeing all these like young people like marching and protesting and really fighting for their right to be in America and to stay here and to be recognized by a country that they've called home for a long time. And so it was then that I decided that I wanted to share my story and hopefully inspire other undocumented people to know that it's possible for you to achieve your dreams in this country, and to shift the conversation around what it means to be undocumented, and hopefully also give other people an understanding of who undocumented people are and why we come here, and especially with so much of what's going on right now, I think it's important for stories like mine to be told and be shared.
Right, absolutely. And so tell us a little bit, you decided to come out and tell your story. How did that come about, and the writing of the book?
Yeah, so after I left Wall Street, I joined an organization called Define American, and it's an organization that uses the power of story to shift the conversation around many of these issues that we're talking about. So, and through that, I was able to then share my story. There was an article written on Bloomberg Businessweek that was so amazing. I mean, the journalist who wrote the story did such a beautiful job of telling my story, and I thank him all the time for it. And as a result of that article, I had the opportunity to tell my story more fully and to write a book called My Underground American Dream that became a Washington Post bestseller. And I'm so glad that I was able to tell my story, because when I was writing the book, the book is, I mean, yes, it's my story as an immigrant, but when it really comes down to it, it's a quintessential American story. Mm-hmm. And it's full of twists and turns, and I always get so excited when people send me notes saying they couldn't put the book down and they read it in one sitting, or they stayed up late to read the next chapter because they just wanted to know what happens next. And so it means a lot when I get those notes, and I think even people who have never been undocumented, people who have never worked on Wall Street, people who have who've never had someone tell them, like, I'm going to call immigration services on you, can still identify with my story and with the book.
Right, right. As you look now at the circumstances that are occurring in this country, what are some of the ways that you are participating? Because I know you're doing a lot of various different things within the media and within your writing. What are some of the things that are helping to advance some of the issues that are going on with immigration in this country today?
Sorry, so I didn't get the.
I know you're doing all sorts of different types of things in the media and with the writing of your book. How do you see the circumstances going on right now with immigration? How do you see that picture, and how are you being involved in making a change for other people?
Yeah, a lot of the issues that we're talking about now, of how immigrants are being portrayed in the media, it's on one hand, it's not new, because growing up undocumented, you pay more attention to what's happening around you in terms of immigration and the stories that are told and what the TV news covers. So some of the issues that are happening now, to be totally honest, they've been going on for a long time. Mm-hmm. But I am really glad that people are starting to pay attention and that people care. I mean, I was so inspired and happy about how many people have come out to protest and to march so that families can be together.
Right.
And it's not something, I remember going to rallies and marches 5-6 years ago where there would be 30 people. Mm-hmm. And now we're seeing hundreds and thousands of people show up. And I think that's amazing. So as much as it's difficult to hear the way in which immigrants are portrayed, I think a lot of times immigrants are viewed as, are used as an scapegoat for a lot of the issues that are happening in our country. It's easier to say the reason we have crime is because immigrants. The reason people are unemployed is because immigrants. And there are a lot of other forces driving those issues. So for me, what's important as a storyteller is to share another side of the story that maybe people aren't hearing about. That the facts that aren't used or that aren't repeated, and to try to combat some of the, frankly, lies that are being told about us. And I do that through my writing, and I do that through the podcast conversations that I host, and I do that, whenever I am given the opportunity, like today, to have a platform like yours to be able to share my story.
And you mentioned as well that a lot of people think that many immigrants come into the United States by illegally crossing a border, but there's many different ways that immigrants are coming into the United States. What are some of the other lies or misunderstandings that people have about immigrants in this country?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one that really drives me crazy, which is that I often get this question of, like, why didn't you apply to become a citizen sooner? Like, why were you undocumented for 15 years? And often undocumented people are told, like, why don't you get in the back of the line? Why don't you do it the right way? And so there's this myth that we're undocumented because we don't want to go through the process, because the process is more difficult and we're just trying to, like, take the easy way out. And that couldn't be farther from the truth, because being undocumented is really, really, really difficult. And if there were other ways, we would do it the other way. So that's the biggest thing, is that when we talk about people getting in the back of the line, what we don't realize or recognize is that line doesn't actually exist. So I'll give you an example. If someone like me came to the U.S. When we were children, so we didn't choose to come here, and whether we crossed the border illegally or came here with a visa like I did, when you're 11, you don't get to choose. So, like, you do what your parents tell you. So,
right.
So, I was in the U.S. since I was 11. I have a college education. I graduated with honors from college. I speak English. I have, have done sort of all the things that I was asked to do to be considered, like, American. And there was still nothing for me to apply. Like, all those years that I was undocumented, I didn't qualify for anything. So it's not like I could have just picked up an application, filled it out, and mailed it in. There are very specific ways that someone becomes eligible to apply. For me, the only way was through marriage. And when I fell in love and got married, then that was eligible to become a citizen, but not a minute before that. And that's very frustrating for someone like me who's like, I'm driven and I want my accomplishments to, like, mean something. And so, but imagine if I hadn't gotten married. If for whatever reason I hadn't fallen in love and gotten married, I would still be undocumented. So, like, all the things that I shared about the things that I've been able to do in America, there would be no application for me to fill out.
Right. All right, well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about My Underground American Dream, which is now being developed into a television series. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Shh. Over here. Here's a secret for a virus-free computer. ESET. They've been a pioneer in the antivirus industry for over 25 years. 25 years of innovative, top-rated antivirus protection. ESET's award-winning security solutions provide a safe online experience for over 100 million home and business computer owners. They are so affordable, fast, and simple to use. So be gone, you blue screen of death. ESET's on my computer. If it's not on yours, visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on ESET now.
Here's the thing about beauty. It's pretty. At AmericanMadeBeauty.com, we're all about the pretty, making it easy for you to find what makes your beauty shine. We have essentially everything you need, and AmericanMadeBeauty.com celebrates brands that were created right here in the U.S. of A. Imagine everything you need, from the best hair, skin, and nail products to makeup and even the tools, because it's all about pretty at AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We also think you're pretty important, so visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com. Browse, buy, learn. AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We're looking for a few good American beauty manufacturers who want to increase their brand in an exclusive credentialed category. If you're an American company who has conceived, designed, and bottled brands that are all about pretty, then we're pretty sure we're talking about you. And we're pretty sure you should be on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. This beauty website focuses on entrepreneurs and beauty startups as well as established brands. If it's pretty, we want to see it, and we want to sell it on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. To learn how you can be part of AmericanMadeBeauty.com, visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com now.
What does HealthyLife.net and Amazon.com have in common? Well, they're both available on the Internet. They both give great value. But most important, most of our positive program hosts and guests are accomplished authors, and their books are available from, you got it, Amazon.com. Now, it even gets better than that, because when you're listening on air to a HealthyLife.net host or guest, you can go directly to Amazon.com and you can order your book while you're still listening to your favorite HealthyLife.net program. So when you hear an author you like, go to the homepage of HealthyLife.net and click on Amazon.com.
Where positive people and radio unite. HealthyLife.net.
Thanks for staying with us. This is Patty Schmucker. You're listening to RadioAMB, and I'm here with Julissa Arce, who is a author and an activist. She's written a book called My Underground American Dream. Julissa, tell us a little bit about, I understand that it is going to be developed as a television series for 20th Century Fox Television. Tell us a little bit about how that's coming about.
Yeah, so I am really fortunate to be working with America Ferrera on developing the show based on my book. I've learned a ton of things about what it takes to develop a television series, and it's been a really great learning experience to work with her and to work to make this happen. That's really what I can share at the moment in terms of where we are with the series. But I'm really excited that there's the potential to have a story of an undocumented immigrant, of an undocumented Mexican immigrant that isn't the stereotypical stories that we watch, right? Like growing up, whenever I saw a brown person on television, they were never like considered like this beautiful people. They were never doctors or lawyers or people on Wall Street. They very often, when we see brown people on television, they're like gang members or drug dealers or just like bad portrayals. So I am excited to have a character on television that is more true of the experiences that immigrants have in this country.
Absolutely. And I also understand you are writing a second book.
Yes. I am so excited about the second book. It's called Someone Like Me, and if you've been paying attention to the whole episode, I've used that phrase, someone like me, all the time, which is why I really wanted this to be the title of my new book. The book is a young adult adaptation of my adult memoir. So it's for a younger audience, and I really wish that when I was growing up, when I was in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, that I could have read a story like mine, because the stories that I read, many of them didn't speak to my experience. So I'm excited for kids to hopefully see themselves reflected in my story. And for people who have read My Underground American Dream, which is my adult memoir, there's a lot of new material in this new book. The book spends about half of the book is in Mexico. When I was living in Mexico, my parents were in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And it talks a lot about what it's like to quote-unquote assimilate into American culture, and sort of the things that I did to fit into this new country, and how hard I fought for my American dream, which then at that time, like, my biggest dream was going to college. Mm-hmm. And so I think that I'm just really excited for like young people to read it. I'm excited for people who have read my other books to get more of a sense of what my life was like before I came to live here.
That's great. Now, I also reading a little bit about your work on crooked media. Tell us a little bit about that.
I love crooked media. I'm sure people have heard of Pod Save America, which is their really smashing hit podcast. Millions of people listen to that podcast every week, and I had the opportunity to go on Pod Save America as a guest, and from there spent a really great relationship with Crooked Media, where I am now a contributor. So if you've listened to Crooked Conversations, which is another Crooked Media podcast, I host some of those conversations, and I've talked to National Geographic photographers about how they're using their photographs to fight climate change. I had the opportunity to have a conversation with the former president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, and I've interviewed members of Congress and poets, and so the conversations are really broad, and I'm so thankful that I have the opportunity to reach so many people and tell. And really just talk about things that interest me, that I think other people will find interesting, and that don't always have to do with being an immigrant.
Right. And where do you think the political environment right now and the role of media in politics, do you feel that this is another way in which you are being able to help make a difference for the immigrant circumstances that are going on in this country today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, the media right now is in such an interesting place, I feel like, because every day we see the president sort of attacking the media, and I think that it is our job as storytellers to keep telling the truth and keep speaking truth in the work that we do. And I take my job very seriously, and I always tell people, like, I don't report the news. I am not breaking stories about the latest thing that happened. Like, my job is to give you my opinion on what's happening and to substantiate that opinion with facts. And if I do that, then I think that I'm doing a good job and I'm doing a good service to be more nuanced in the stories that I tell.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned at the top of the show that you had certain circumstances that occurred that allowed you to get an education and allowed you to do some of the different things, but part of your culture and the way you were brought up was about being resilient and resourceful. Where does that energy come from? What's the inspiration for that?
I mean, partly I think it's in my blood, to be honest, because, like, my mom and my dad and my grandmother and my grandfathers, like, we've always hustled. I feel like my family has always been full of hustle and strength and hard work, and that's always been instilled in me since I was a little girl. Like, my mom and my dad would always tell me, no is not a final answer. And sometimes I would turn that on them. And when they would tell me no, I'd be like, but you said no, it's not the final answer. So there was that. But yeah, I have seen my mom do so much with so little, and I have been given opportunities that she never had, and I feel like it's my responsibility to honor that hard work and those sacrifices that my family made in order for me to be where I am.
Right. And you mentioned as well getting into college that it was partly the law that changed, but you also had that diligence with regards to you had the good grades, you had the extracurricular activity and that type of thing. Was it fun or was it work to do all those things?
I really like learning a lot.
Okay.
I like learning new things. I enjoyed school. I know that sounds kind of, might sound kind of weird to some people, but to me, school was like a place where I could lose myself. I could lose myself in the books that I was reading, and like math. I loved math because it was so certain, and there was always a right answer. And everything else in my life was so uncertain, and like there wasn't the right answer for a lot of the things that I was going through. But when it came to math, like 2 + 2 is always 4. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed learning, and I enjoyed being in school. And sometimes I miss that. Like I miss being in sort of that like learning environment. But, it's also work. I mean, sometimes you have to stay up late and study and do the work. And sometimes when people ask me for, like, tips on, like, how have you been so successful and what are some, like, tips? And the number one thing I tell people is that there aren't any shortcuts. Like, you have to do the work. Like, you have to put in the work. And sometimes you just have to, like, suck it up and do the work. And
that's right.
It's not always fun, but it's always worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I appreciate getting a chance to speak with you and to share your story. What is the next most exciting thing that you're looking forward to?
I'm really excited about my book coming out in September. It comes out September 18th. I hope people will pre-order it, and I hope people who have never read My Underground American Dream will read that too. I'm really, really excited for especially young people to have this book in their hands.
Great. Well, again, Julissa, thank you so much for being with us today. We're going to take another break, and we hope that you'll stay with us.
Here's the thing about beauty. It's pretty. At AmericanMadeBeauty.com, we're all about the pretty, making it easy for you to find what makes your beauty shine. We have essentially everything you need, and AmericanMadeBeauty.com celebrates brands that were created right here in the U.S. of A. Imagine everything you need from the best hair, skin, and nail products to makeup and even the tools, because it's all about pretty at AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We also think you're pretty important, so visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com. Browse, buy, learn. AmericanMadeBeauty.com.
For all your live or pre-recorded webcasting needs, come to earthchannel.com. Get your web-based message out to a select group or the whole world. It's easy. A pioneer in webcasting, earthchannel.com provides the best products and services to big corporations and government users. And now this same technology is available to you. They have the best Earthcast encoders, servers, and products to meet your technical needs. But wait, don't want to mess with technical stress? No problem. They'll do it for you. EarthChannel.com is your answer. You can use webcasting for lots of things like advertising, marketing, customer support, training, and don't forget web radio and TV. In fact, you're listening to a live Earthcast right now. So come to EarthChannel.com. Actualize your audio or video webcasting needs today. You can't beat the friendly service or the price. Call EarthChannel.com at 1-800-849-8978. That's 1-800-849-8978.
We're looking for a few good American beauty manufacturers who want to increase their brand in an exclusive credentialed category. If you're an American company who has conceived, designed, and bottled brands that are all about pretty, then we're pretty sure we're talking about you. And we're pretty sure you should be on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. This beauty website focuses on entrepreneurs and beauty startups as well as established brands. If it's pretty, we want to see it, and we want to sell it on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. To learn how you can be part of AmericanMadeBeauty.com, visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com now.
Radio your way. HealthyLife.net.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. I love that story. It was so amazing to hear the inspiration of Julissa and how she persevered and really believed in herself. And I think that it is really inspirational because in today's world where we have so much contention and strife that's going on, it's hard to not lose yourself. And so in this segment, I want to talk a little bit about the messy prescription for being vibrant, for living a long and vibrant life and wellness. You know, people in our industries are often considered the ones that shape the way people see themselves and how they present themselves to the world. And someone like Julissa had a perception of herself because she was an immigrant and she was non-documented. And as a result of that, it shaped the way she saw herself. She was defined by her community, as all of us are. But it's important for the beauty industry is one place where some of the most vibrant work we do is helping people to live long and healthy lives. And so in this segment, I want to talk to you a little bit about what I consider to be that prescription for living a long and vibrant life. You know, as beings, it actually has been demonstrated throughout history that we have an innate instinct to connect. And the question is really why? Why do we have that innate instinct? You know, we look back 64,000 years before Christ, and you actually see images on the cave walls that were drawn by Neanderthals. And 20,000 years later, humans did the same thing to basically capture their image, documented that they existed, and shared those images with other people. In fact, Egyptians are credited for creating the first realistic face paintings that were sort of a burial idea, if you will, because these paintings were actually tucked away into the coffins of the dead, so that when they passed into the afterlife, it was sort of a passport so that their communities would recognize them after they passed away. But it would be the invention of the mirror that, according to Fast Company magazine, actually changed the concept of individual identity. And this all relates back to our identity affects our health. With the mirror, we began to see ourselves as we really were, and we were able to modify how we presented ourselves to the world. In fact, there was an author, Ian Mortimer, in Fast Company magazine that believes that the mirror created a crucial shift in society because they allowed people to see themselves properly for the first time, with all of our sort of unique expressions and characteristics. As mirrors became available to the average person, society continued to shift. We no longer saw ourselves as insignificant in the sea of humanity. In fact, every person began to see themselves in the mirror, actually at the center of attention, and it began to encourage us to think of oneself in different ways. We actually began to see our individual uniqueness. Now remember, before the mirror, any kind of images that were done were about the community. Those cave wall paintings and all of the other types of portraits that were done were all about building a community. Our identity was tied up with the people we knew, the places we lived, the way we participated in our community. So imagine how that feeling was for Julissa as a non-documented person. Her community was much more narrow. In fact, when you were banished from the community, it was actually the absolute worst punishment because an individual would lose everything that provided their identity. The discovery of our uniqueness gave rise to our preoccupation and wanting us, a preoccupation about our appearance and wanting to look our absolute best outside in the world. By the 20th century, we see a connection between fashion, cosmetic, music, technology. Uniqueness is now on steroids, and the mirror serves as a barometer of our effectiveness of presenting ourselves in the best light. If you think about it today, 42% of the global population carries their own individual device that has a mirror that captures all of these 21st century life elements. And we're now able to see ourselves, modify how we present ourselves to the world, and get feedback faster from further distance than any other time in history. As someone who sort of witnessed all of these things unfold, it has led me to ask this big question. If the reason why from 64,000 years before Christ we captured the selfies and we're sharing them is part of this innate instinct to connect with other human beings. Does the combination of the mirror, the selfies, all this new technology, social mirrors, and social media, are we actually building bridges and improving our health, or are we building walls? There's an increasing amount of evidence that social media and this preoccupation with the way we look and the way other people see us is changing people's lives, and especially teenagers. We're learning that despite the intention to connect and using technology to do that, it's actually creating more harm than good. People are not connecting in true intimate work, because the true prescription for health comes from our heart work, our soul work. You heard Julissa in the feature segment talk about, despite the fact that the law had changed that allowed her as an undocumented person here in the United States to go to college, that she was able to take advantage of that opportunity because of the hard work and determination that was part of her soul work. It was part of the DNA of her community to work hard and to do your absolute best. And when we do that, when we participate fully, when we're willing to participate fully in life and be willing to have intimate and close relationships with other people, is where we create a vibrant life. It's where we create our optimum health. And so I leave you with these things that I hope will help you as well, as is the inspiration that I got from the interview with Julissa, to do these things for your prescription for health. Don't allow others to define who you are. Even though Julissa was an undocumented person in the United States, she held her head high and she worked hard. Take more time to focus inward rather than outward. Ask and answer the question, who am I? Be face-to-face more with people rather than screen-to-screen. Be genuinely curious about everything. Lean into real and messy connections with human beings. Be willing to be vulnerable, scared, and still stay engaged with what you're passionate about and people. And finally, always be respectful, honest, and kind to others. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Here's the thing about beauty. It's pretty. At AmericanMadeBeauty.com, we're all about the pretty, making it easy for you to find what makes your beauty shine. We have essentially everything you need, and AmericanMadeBeauty.com celebrates brands that were created right here in the U.S. of A. Imagine everything you need, from the best hair, skin, and nail products to makeup and even the tools, because it's all about pretty at AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We also think you're pretty important, so visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com. Browse, buy, learn. AmericanMadeBeauty.com.
When you're looking for bedding, department store prices can shock you. Well, be shocked no more. Sell steak cheap, not cheap steak. That's the motto of Anna's Linens. Although they don't sell steak, they do sell the best bedding, bath, and home decor items. They strive to provide their merchandise at extreme value to their customers, and they do it. Great everyday prices on everything and military discounts. Plus, if you visit them online, they have clearance items and internet specials. Visit them online now at HealthyLife.net's advertiser page.
We're looking for a few good American beauty manufacturers who want to increase their brand in an exclusive credentialed category. If you're an American company who has conceived, designed, and bottled brands that are all about pretty, then we're pretty sure we're talking about you. And we're pretty sure you should be on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. This beauty website focuses on entrepreneurs and beauty startups as well as established brands. If it's pretty, we want to see it, and we want to sell it on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. To learn how you can be part of AmericanMadeBeauty.com, visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com now.
Oh, man, it never fails. My suitcase just got ripped apart.
Life is a journey. Make it a pleasant one. Use Samsonite. You know the name. For almost a century, Samsonite luggage has proved itself to be the worldwide leader in innovative travel solutions. Let it be yours. Visit HealthyLife.net's affiliate Samsonite on our homepage and click to look at the fine luggage from suitcases to golf travel bags. And don't forget take a look at their travel accessories. Make life a journey, a pleasant one, with Samsonite.
HealthyLife.net, where positive overcomes negative.
Welcome back. In our final segment, I want to focus my communication to the professionals. July not only is the month that American Made Beauty and the rest of the world, the worst of the country, celebrates our country's independence, it's also the month that North America is the location for where the beauty community comes together and celebrates and talks about what's new and what's happening and preparing for the fourth quarter and holiday season. Cosmoprof North America happens in Las Vegas this year, July the 29th and 30th. And that is literally the largest beauty show in North America. There's all sorts of different activities that go on, and if you are in any way connected to the industry, it is a show you must go to. Not only will you have a plethora of booths of exhibitors that are showing their product, old brands, new brands, innovation, and it is just a absolute opportunity to understand what's happening in the industry, put your finger on the pulse, and the Cosmoprof North America team really puts together a very compelling show with lots of different ways to discover new things, new brands, new innovations, and things like that. So I highly recommend that you consider going to that show if you're in any way interested. If you're an influencer and love beauty, you need to be at that show. If you are a brand, you absolutely need to be at that show. And if you're a buyer in any way, you need to be at that show. But one of the major activities that occur at the show is where buyers and sellers get together. It is where buyers go to discover brands. And I have had the unique privilege and honor to be involved in the last 5 or 7 years of helping brands get ready for distribution. And I am always surprised at how ill-prepared brands come for these kinds of opportunities. Because the reality is today, indie brands, new brands, is where much of the growth is taking place, particularly in the beauty and health sector. And there's a lot of reasons for it. I want to spend my time on helping you. If you are a brand, these are some of the things you really need to understand in order to be ready to have a meeting with a potential buyer. First and foremost is understanding that until your brand gets to at least $1 million in sale, you don't have a brand and you don't have proof of concept. So oftentimes the idea of building a brand to a level in which you are going to have real compelling buyers, where you're going to be able to get in the door of a qualified distributor that's going to be interested in carrying you, getting in the door of a retailer. They want to be able to work with brands that have some proof of concept. We often have said that's $1 million. It can be a little bit less, but the point is you've got to have some growth. So it's really important to understand that some type of growth takes place in order for you to be able to have proof of concept. The next thing is that you have your brand trademarked. Whatever name you are using for that brand, it must be trademarked. And there is an entire registration process. We've talked many times on this show about that. So go back in our archives and pick up the information on trademarks. But it's critical that you have your brand trademarked before you go to a show, and that your packaging reflects the TM or R registration that shows that that you're educated about trademarks and that you've gone through the process. The next thing is that you must have your pricing in order. In the world today, there are a number of different layers that are going to be required in order for your brand to be successful. And when I'm saying layers, the idea that if you make a product and it costs you $2 to make it, there's not enough profitability in your company if you make it for $2 and you sell it for $4. There is a standard that has been tried and proven over this industry, and although the market has changed and we have eliminated some of the layers of distribution, the fact is that beauty is a marketing play, and a brand must have enough margin between what it costs them to make it and the selling price that they're selling it for in order to be sustainable. And retailers and brand partners are interested in brands that are long-term play. If you've got something that's absolutely novel and you know that it is a one-hit wonder and it's going to be here and gone, great. But most retail partners are looking for long-term growth. So make sure that you have your pricing so that it is accurate and that you've tested it, not only that you have enough margin, but that you are competitive in the marketplace. Those are two things that are critically important and that you want to have before you attempt to have a meeting with a buyer. Go to a Cosmoprof and try and have meetings with potential distributors and buyers, and by having a line sheet. And that line sheet would have all of this pricing information for every single product. You also want to have UPC codes because in this day and age that's all connected through technology, more and more distributors and retailers and buyers are utilizing UPC codes and need that information to be on the product. The line sheet should also have all of the what we call DEMS, dimensions and weights of the products. How your product is packed out. Is it in master cartons of 6 or 12? Those are all pieces of information that would be on a line sheet. In addition to what kind of marketing support and education would you be providing for your partners that work with you, and most importantly, your social footprint. These are all factors that potential buyers are going to be interested in. Today, the social footprint is huge, and in addition, when you combine a big social footprint along with $500,000 to $1 million plus in revenue, this is when you're beginning to get real traction. One of the final and most important things as well is your packaging. Make sure that you have followed FDA requirements for what you need to have and the way your package is labeled. I see too many times all across in kiosks, in malls, in farmers markets, and even at these big trade shows where people have paid $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to be there, that the product cannot be sold because it is not legally compliant. Go to FDA and look and do a search for cosmetic labeling and make sure that you're following the rules. This is the month of July. We're celebrating independence of America, and we're celebrating innovation in beauty in America. Thanks for being with us. I'm Patty Schmucker. We think all things are important in beauty.